In this exercise, I'm going to show you how to take a digital photograph or a scanned piece of artwork and place it into Illustrator as a tracing template. I'm working inside of a file called baseguides.ai, found inside the 06 Transform folder. And notice, in addition to these base layers right here, which include the guides layer as well as an empty drawing layer, I also have available to you, if you go to the window menu and you choose the swatches command, I've also made available a handful of color swatches that will make it easier to color your artwork as you work along with me. And I'm going to go ahead and make these guys bigger because by default we have some very dinky little swatches. I'm going to click on the flyout menu icon and I'm going to choose large thumbnail view, which allows the swatches a little bit more room to breathe. Then I'm going to click on the guides layer in order to make it active, and I'm going to create a new layer by Alt or Option clicking on this Create New Layer icon down here at the bottom of the Layers panel. That forces the display of the Layer Options dialog box, and I'm going to call this new layer Image, and I'm going to change its color to blue. And that'll help me to better keep track of what's going on inside of my document. I'll click OK in order to create that new layer. Then I'll go up to the File menu and choose the Place command. If you loaded my D keys keyboard shortcuts, then you can also press Ctrl-Alt-D or Command-Option-D on the Mac in order to choose Place. Then navigate your way to the 06 Transform folder, click on tilephoto.jpg, and click on the Place button in order to import it into your document. Now, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a couple of clicks here so that you can see, notice that we have this dark blue X traversing through the photographic image. And that's just Illustrator's way of showing you that you have a foreign piece of artwork inside of your illustration. And notice that the X exactly intersects my cyan guidelines. Now, normally that would be a great thing, but there's a little bit of distortion associated with this photograph, which is typical, of course, because it's pretty near impossible to exactly head-on shoot an image element such as this. To better align this base photograph with the artwork that we're about to create, and I just know this from experience here, I want you to go ahead and slightly reposition the artwork like so. So again, if you're working along with me, I want you to press Control-K or Command-K on the Mac to bring up the Preferences dialog box. And note the keyboard increment. It should be set to 0.2 points, just like this. By default, it's 1 point, but if you've been following along with me, I had you set it to 0.2 point. That's what I want. Go ahead and click OK. And now, assuming that your keyboard shortcut is the same as mine, I want you, with the image still selected, go ahead and press Shift down arrow in order to move the image down a full 2 points, so 10 times the keyboard increment. And then I want you to press the right arrow key 7 times in a row. So once again, that's the right arrow key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And again, if you don't get the image exactly in place, that's not a big deal. This will just help ensure that you and I achieve more or less the same results. All right, now that we've placed and positioned the image, I want you to go over to the Layers panel and double-click on the image layer to bring up the Layer Options dialog box. And now I want you to convert this layer into a template. So we're seeing the same options we saw just a moment ago. However, we weren't able to do this step until we got the image in place. So I now want you to turn on the template checkbox. Notice that locks the layer down, and it dims most of these options here. And the idea is this: when you turn on template, you convert this layer into this special thing that remains visible even when you switch to the outline mode. So remember that outline mode where you just see the path outlines and you see through all the paths. You don't see any fills or strokes, but you will see the image in the background so that you can continue to trace it. Also notice this one other option that's available to us at this point: dim images to 50%. And that's going to gray out the image. So if I click OK, you can see that the image becomes more pale, which ostensibly will help us to be able to distinguish the vector outlines that we're creating inside of Illustrator from the image in the background. And you can change your mind at any point in time you like. You can go ahead and double-click on the image layer once again. You can reduce that dim images value to, let's say, 35%. Click OK, and you're going to have a dimmer version of the image. Also notice, by the way, by virtue of the fact that this is a template layer, it appears italicized in the Layers panel, and its eye becomes this little collection of shapes right there. So it subscribes to a different behavior than the other layers in the document. All right, I'm going to go ahead and restore the original dim images value of 50%. I also want you to notice the word images there. That means specifically pixel-based images. So if you have any vectors on this layer, they will not be dimmed. Only the photographic or scanned artwork will be dimmed on this layer. All right, I'll go ahead and click OK in order to restore the original dim value. Now I want you to go ahead and click on the drawing layer in order to make it active so that we can begin tracing our artwork. Now I want you to notice one more thing, and you may have already run into this if you've been working along with me. If you save your progress as you work along, which of course I heartily recommend you do, then you may see an alert message every once in a while. Go to the File menu and choose the Save command. And you'll see this alert that says saving to a legacy format may cause some changes to your text layout and disable some editing features when the document is read back in. Now, why are we seeing this alert message? Well, the reason is I have saved this illustration in the Illustrator CS3 format. And the reason I did that was to ensure that it's compatible with older versions of the software in case you don't happen to be using Illustrator CS5. And that's entirely acceptable for the project file that we're about to create. In fact, there are very few things about Illustrator CS5, even though it's the newest version of the software, that are not compatible with the Illustrator CS3 format. However, Illustrator does like to bother you about this. What I suggest you do is just say, don't show again, because the alert message is sufficiently vague that it's not useful. And so I recommend you go ahead and turn on Don't Show Again and click on the Yes button in order to go ahead and save that illustration. In the next exercise, we'll begin tracing the square tiles.